the example that they use in the book is sort of concrete. It says that the kid, let's see, the problem says there are 8 glasses and each one holds a pint, and you have some liquid and you want to put 3/4 of a pint in each glass. How much of the liquid do you need to do that? And the kid says 24 pints. And the guy who's talking to, this is a bright student, and the researcher who's talking to him says, how could that be? And the guy said, well, that's the way it works out. And he said, what do you mean? He said, well, I did the math right. I'm sure it's right. And he asked him, but now each 3/4 of a pint, that's less than a pint. So each one of these glasses would have less than a pint in it. And he says, yes. And how many glasses are there? 6. Well, how could there be more than 6 pints? And he said, I don't know. That's the way it works out. But the point is, the kids aren't looking at what they're doing and trying to make sense out of it. And how do, you know, they're not making estimates, trying to put things in context, trying to figure things out for themselves. It's just a series of tasks that they've been shown how to do. And when it comes to this thing about problem solving, okay, so you can say, oh, well, to complete the square, you just take half of this and add it to both sides, and then it comes out, right? How did you know to do that, guy? How'd you know to do that? Or, even more important, you know, how did you think of using the square root of 2 and the square root of 3 and the square root of 5? Where did that come from? How come you thought of a square on the slanted side? How come you thought of that? Other people didn't? What was going on? What do you know that they don't know? Why does that happen? See, I'm convinced that this idea of smart is really kind of goofy, because people think, most of you probably think I'm pretty smart and pretty good at mathematics, and I've gotten used to that, right? In spite of my C's in Algebra 2. It's something you learn. It's something you can learn. You can learn to be good. You can learn to be better at it. And it's not just accumulating knowledge. It's thinking about, how do you solve this problem? How do you know this? It's also an important skill for a teacher. How do you know that this move is the right one to make? How do you recognize the teachable moment? Oh, geez, that didn't work at all. That was terrible. Why did I have him do that? That was just bad. How do I know it was bad? Or that was brilliant. That worked out really well. How do I know that? And why did I make that move? Okay, so now we're getting down to it. So I would like to share with you some of my thoughts about how you make this happen. And those of you who have heard me before can now start thinking about the monkey puzzle. Because I don't think I've given a talk when I haven't talked about these things, because I believe that these things are right at the heart of what it's all about. What do I do? Well, I don't do it anymore, unfortunately, but what have I done for years and years and years? And some of these are things you can say, oh yeah, well, No. These are top priority. I was going to do it here and it got away from me. You were all in a room before I realized that the computer was working and everything was all right and I couldn't do it. Meet students at the door every day, every period. If you're teaching in a situation where kids come and go. You know, grade school teachers do it because they come in line and you meet them all every day and help them get their clothes off or their shirts, their jackets off and sorry. Anyway, but teachers who have a class where the kids come to you for that class, right? You got to start the right way, and the right way is to meet each one of them at the door. Say, hi, Bob. Hand them a problem to do. Why? Well, number one, it makes certain that you have made a personal contact with every one of them before the bell rings. Number two, you may notice something about them. You might say, "Gee, like your new haircut." Or, "What'd you do to your arm?" Well, I mean, assuming it's in a cast or something. But appropriate comments. Wow, does that mean a lot to a kid? That their teacher is noticing something about them other than how many problems they got right or wrong. And you're doing it without embarrassing them. It's while they walk into the room, you're looking them in the eye. You're saying, "Did you win the game last night? How's the play coming?" Or you can even say, "How's your mom?" Because you found out at parent conferences that his mom is really sick. And so things at home aren't real good. And you want them to know that you're aware of that. But you don't embarrass them in front of everybody else. Or you might say, "Wow, great quiz, way to go." Or, "You need to come in and see me." Just however you do it your own way. Teaching is very personable, but you do it in an appropriate way. Say, "You're having trouble with this, aren't you?" "Well, when do you have lunch?" "Come on in. Give me 10 minutes. But it gives you a chance to do all of that. Now, how did I learn this? Well, I'm brilliant. I figured it out all by myself. No, my first year of teaching was in Atlanta, Georgia at Frederick Douglass High School. It was a brand new school. It was integrated because I was there. The principal, this was 1968. So we're talking about some serious civil rights issues. It's why I wanted to go to that school. I've always been sort of idealistic about changing the world. And the principal had his sights set on being a superintendent someday. And his school, this was opening day, his school, he was going to make sure this was tight. And so at the meeting before the school year he said, "Every single one of you will be at your door every single passing period. No exceptions. If you can't do that, please give me your resignation right now. We'll find another school for you." He said, "We are not going to have trouble in the hallways at this school. And if there's an adult every 20 feet, then there won't be trouble." The other thing he did was, it was a 3-floor school. There were 3 administrators. Guess where their offices were? 1st floor, 2nd floor, 3rd floor. Anybody in here who knows a school like that? Our offices are off in the corner where nobody can find them, so they can have meetings without interrupting people. And every single passing period, the administrator looped. The administrator on the floor walked it 2 or 3 times during that passing period. So if there was any trouble, you could just say, Mr. Harris, and he was there with the authority that an assistant principal had, and there wasn't trouble. But there were all these other things that I noticed that happened that I'm sure Mr. Butts didn't know about. I'm sure he didn't have any idea that smiling at kids and calling them by name when they came into the classroom was going to make a difference in terms of the atmosphere. Anyway, get it started right.